Hello, thanks for joining me again on the Yoga Teachers Hustle. This is where we talk about all the different things. Actually, it's not just for yoga teachers, it's for anybody that's in the kind of fitness industry, holistic industry. It's that person that is wanting to make a business run, but they come up with all these different walls and hurdles to get over. And we'll just talk about those different aspects and how we can be better from them. Should yoga teachers or energy healers or anybody that works within the spiritual context make money? Now, this is a strange thing to talk about, I suppose, but I think it's one of those taboo subjects which doesn't actually get approached as often as it should do. I think when you're a teacher and you're doing something good for somebody and you're helping them, it's often a mindset where it has to be a charitable event. You're doing something for the good of the people. So therefore, financially, you shouldn't be making any money off it. But I think the problem here is that you're teaching people about spirituality and you're teaching people about getting to know themselves. And you may want to do that within a religious context, for whichever religion you do or don't follow. But we look at the church, we don't have to pay to go to church. There's this belief that if it's a religious aspect or a spiritual aspect, that we don't need to actually be paying for that because it's a charitable, like I say, it's a charitable thing. You don't get paid to go to church. You don't have to pay to go and speak to a vicar to get help or sustain your mental, spiritual well-being. So why should a spiritual business person take money? But there is something really important here, because I think when you go shopping or you order something online, it's very tangible, isn't it? You can put your hands on it, you can touch it, you get the item, you use it a few times, you may put it back down, you may not use it again, you may just enjoy the buzz of having it. But with spiritual aspects, it's not tangible. You can't see necessarily immediate results. Yes, you go to a yoga class and you feel better afterwards, but later on in the week you need to you encounter something with somebody else and you have another episode of unhappiness. Whereas a yoga teacher may tell you to go home and sit and meditate and work from a yoga video or your yoga knowledge to recuperate from that. The chances are you're going to go out with your friends, you might go out for a drink, you might go and buy yourself something immediate that's going to give you an immediate relief. You may eat a bit of cake. You may be someone who's an emotional eater and they may eat a bit of cake. I'm not saying everybody's like that, but it's a tangible thing. It's something that can be done immediately. And with spiritual work, it does take a while to let go of old habits, let go of old beliefs. Ascension, this whole process of ascension isn't as necessarily as quick as we as a society would like it to be. We're always on the move. We always want to do things. We want it now. We want it yesterday. And spiritual ascension is about letting go. It's about relaxing and becoming a bit more part of the rhythm of life, rather than trying to move life quicker to what we think we need to do it in the time frame that we need to do it. So very often, because yoga or spiritual practices aren't tangible, people are reluctant to pay money for it. And the problem is as a yoga teacher, you've spent a lot of money on training, you've put a lot of effort into training. It takes years to hone your body, it takes your own spiritual practice to understand what you're teaching, and it takes a lot of time with regards to things like spiritual ego, where you get on your journey, you think you know it all, you have a breakdown, and then when you're teaching your classes, to have the skill where you're teaching them in a way that's beneficial to them, but not because you know better than them and your spiritual ego doesn't take over. Things like that, they all take a lot of energy. And as much as we don't like to admit it, yoga teaching, Pilates teaching, Reiki, all those aspects that we sell for spirituality, it's a hustle. It is a hustle. I'm not saying you can't make millions from a hustle, but you are constantly having to think about the current market. You currently have to think about how your customers are responding to you. You have to adapt to certain situations. The universe throws a curveball at you. You've got to adapt to it. Some weeks you may have thousands in the class. Next week you have one, and it's a constant. It is a constant hustle, and it is very difficult to kind of commit yourself to full-time self-employed, just teaching one thing or just doing one aspect of it, because it won't necessarily be able to sustain you. And a lot of people do have other jobs on top of this to help with that financial income. But if you're offering something that's going to change people's lives, if you're offering something that, yes, it isn't tangible, but it really will make people stop and think, and will have a huge impact on the collective consciousness, on everybody in this world, if we all kind of had that attitude towards, not had the same religious attitude, but the same spiritual attitude, which is that we want to get to know ourselves better and be the grandest versions of ourselves. Well, that impacts everybody, and that's when people start to be more considerate of each other, of the planet, and such like things. So it is a very, very important job that a spiritual teacher is doing. So the question is that any less important than anybody else's job where you're financially paid a lot of money for it? And it is important. There's no harm in having money in teaching spiritual aspects. I think you'll find with a lot of students as well, those that actually value their spirituality and are starting to come on their spiritual journey and start to let go of material possessions as they don't find them fulfilling anymore, will find that money to support you and support them and you. And the question is are you blocking yourself by having that mentality of thinking, well, I'm doing something charitable, so I'm not going to accept this money, or I'm going to take less than what I should have because I feel I only deserve a small amount? Or are you going to be somebody that says, yes, if people are willing to pay it for me and I know I can deliver a service that's worthwhile and worth the money they're paying me, then what exactly is the problem? And I think it's not necessarily, I think there's a lot of poverty at the moment. There's a lot of people struggling to feed families, and I know energy rates are going up, bills are going up. There's a lot of things happening in the world, but there's also a lot of extra income in other people's lives. I'm not saying everybody has it, but there are people that do have the income and will find the money, and the money universe will present them with the money to spend on things like spiritual aspects. And there's no harm in you having part of that. So it's about determining your value, what you feel you are worth. Because if you have a lovely website and you're dealing with restorative yoga and you have products on there and you've had to knock them down to half price to get people onto your website, and then people are contacting you and asking for freebies, or they just say, oh, I've just got this back issue and I've got this problem here, and then all of a sudden there's a back and forth where you're giving advice, but you can't assess them. And people are very frightened to say, look, for a full assessment, you will need to fill in this questionnaire and you will need to pay for a session. You can book it here and we'll do this on a one-on-one basis and we will do this in the proper way. A lot of people will actually feel embarrassed to do that. So they will give as much information via a direct message or email rather than actually ask for a commitment from that person to their spirituality, to their health in a financial way. And I often read on forums about this where people say, I can't get people to buy. But how much of it are you giving away for free? And how much of it how much value do you give to yourself for the content that you're putting out? Because if you're just giving it away for free and you financially can't do that, if you're made of money, that's absolutely fine, isn't it? It's a lovely charitable thing to do. But if you haven't got the money to do that, are you devaluing yourself by saying, well, I haven't got the money, but these people haven't either, so I'm just going to go without? And there is this point of when you look at the 8 limbs of yoga and all the philosophy related to yoga, where you don't want to be greedy and you don't want to be selfish. But if you're not in a happy place and you're not spiritually content and you're struggling to feed yourself, and it brings with it negative vibes and problems, then that is going to affect how you help other people. And it might sound selfish, but if you are spiritually in a good place yourself and you're manifesting abundance, you will help share that with other people, and that manifestation will be shared and will grow across everybody. I think there is this real problem at the moment with people. The people that share tend to be the people that don't have a lot of money, because they feel sad for the people that don't have money, and they know how it feels, and they want to alleviate other people's suffering. And then you tend to find people that have a great deal of money will keep getting money, and they'll kind of have a lot of money. And I'm not saying everybody should have the same amount of money when people aren't working at the same amount of velocity. There's a big argument there, isn't there? Saying someone works harder than somebody else. But there is something about people having the basic needs met, which is food and shelter and love and clothing, and that should be available to everybody. And I'm not sure if you're someone with £100 billion in the bank that you're never going to spend in this lifetime, if it's fair to kind of have that money. I don't think, well, it's not my place to judge, because actually everybody is on their own journey. Personally, if somebody has a large amount of cash, of that amount, if I had that in my bank account, I'm not sure I could sleep at night, because I know my conscience would want me to help those people that aren't being able to feed their children, that are going without meals themselves, that are going out with basic care because they just don't have money. So in that sense, when you're talking about morals and sharing and charitable things, yes, of course, you're discussing what your value is again, aren't you? If you had lots of money, you'd give things away for free. But if you don't have money, then you're going to have to charge people, and it is a really difficult mindset to be in. And I'm guilty for it. I've just had that discussion about billionaires and things, and it's slightly judgmental. But it is something that really affects you mentally when you're looking at other people with money, and when you're struggling yourself for money, and then when you get money yourself, and how that affects other people. I don't know what the answer is to this, but what I will say is that what I have learned in my life is that I'm not going to feel ashamed of making money from doing something I love and changing people's lives, if people are willing to pay that to me. And the more I am willing to take money from people and provide them with a good service, the more people are willing to pay me. And when I was in a more, let's say, poverty state, where I was not willing necessarily to take money because I felt like I couldn't, and I wasn't devaluing myself, I seemed to have less and less and less. So there is a case of, I suppose, manifestation in the law of attraction there. I suppose it's up to you to find your own moral ground with this. But I just wanted to give you some food for thought, to say, if you are struggling to get clients, just to assess what your mindset is and see how you might change that in order to manifest a financial stability. Let's say that's the best thing. Well, I'm going to leave you with that thought, and I would love to know your thoughts in the comments. Let's try and keep it kind of rational. I know it sounds horrible, but I know when it comes to money, people can be quite judgmental and quite negative, and I do understand there's a lot of anger surrounding it, but I think it would be great for everybody if we could share our opinions and our thoughts on this in a way that is considerate of all different viewpoints. And yeah, let's see how we go.